Hello virtual pilots, today we present to you a nostalgic material featuring the newly added F-22 mod for DCS World and a first training mission that many of you will recognize from the F-22 Lightning series developed by Novalogic back in the day. It's a simple training mission featured in the F-22 Lightning 3 campaign that takes place at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada. And what better setting to reproduce the entire campaign if not DCS World? Well, for those of you wondering how this would work, or just wanting to relive some iconic moments in the F-22 cockpit, please enjoy this first attempt here at How I Play.
Welcome to Nellis Air Force Base, Nevada, rookie. This is what we call a FAM, or familiarization flight, so you can get comfortable with all the basics of your heads-up display, or HUD for short. Your takeoff speed is going to be around 140 knots. The dial on the left center of your HUD indicates your takeoff airspeed. We'll get into more detail once you're airborne. Once you reach takeoff speed, pull back on the stick and get airborne.
So we need to select steer point 1, and when clear for departure we will follow the flight plan around the base, and at the end we will perform one touch and go, and then a full stop landing.
Reduce your engine power to cruise setting. Leaving your engines on afterburner will use up all your fuel, or it may cause the aircraft to go to max velocity, or Vmax, and cause damage to your aircraft.
We just reached our cruise altitude and we are going to level off here.
The more info you have in combat, the more likely you are to survive. So a lot of the most important flight information is concentrated right smack in the middle of your HUD. The steering pipper, called the command steering cue, always points to the direction of your next steer point. It'll point straight up and be in the center of your flight path marker once you've got the next point right in front of you. Having the flight path marker pointing at the ground for too long is probably not a smart idea. Horizontal lines that run down the center of your display make up the pitch ladder. This indicates the pitch angle of your aircraft's nose. Numbers with solid lines indicate a pitch above the horizon. Dashed lines indicate a pitch below the horizon. The vertical bar in the upper right side of the HUD is a vertical velocity indicator. The tick to the left of the bar shows how fast you're either climbing or descending. This value is displayed numerically below the scale in hundreds of feet per minute. Element of victory. You can track that speed with a calibrated airspeed dial to the left side of your display. F-22's thrust vectoring engines give it a greater angle of attack than most other airplanes. As you maneuver, keep in mind the effect of gravity on the plane and your body. Pulling too many G's will cause the blood to drain out of your head and you could experience blackout. Likewise, pushing too many negative G's can cause all the blood to rush to your head and you experience a redout. This begins to occur around -4 G's.
So now we need to keep an eye on our speed as we start our descent. And switching to steer point 5.
Okay, now your next steer point is your initial approach point. Decrease engine power to landing thrust. You want your airspeed at approximately 300 knots when you reach your initial approach point. To slow down, activate your air brakes. Now you want to pitch your nose down about 10 degrees by putting the flight path marker on the -10 degree line on your pitch ladder. By the time you reach your initial approach point, your altitude should be approximately 5,000 foot AGL. Check this on the AGL indicator on the right center of your HUD. Getting close. Now hit the G key to lower your landing gear. This will automatically extend your flaps. You will now notice the handling of the aircraft is a bit sluggish. When the F-22 comes into a landing configuration, it dampens the pitch and roll inputs to make the aircraft easier to handle at low speeds. We want your airspeed at or around 200 knots when you reach your final approach point. Use your air brakes if you have to slow down even further. When you get about 6 miles out from the runway, the instrument landing system will come up on your HUD. The ILS consists of the horizontal and vertical localizer bars and the angle of attack indicator. When your gear's down, the G-force indicator in the upper left-hand corner changes to the AOA indicator. Now the hard part. You want the vertical localizer bar lined up on the runway. This is the bar running up and down. The horizontal localizer bar will move up as you get closer to the runway. The idea is to get the vertical and horizontal localizer bars crossing directly on top of your flight path marker. Reduce your engine power to 35%. Once your altitude is about 200 foot AGL, pitch your nose up to an angle of attack of 12 to 14 degrees. You want to keep your nose flared up to make sure your rear wheels touch down first. Now this is what we call a touch and go exercise, so after you touch down, fire up your afterburners and get airborne again. Good luck to you. Now the next landing will be a little bit harder. You're going to have to make a 90-degree turn to your final approach point. Now all of the same rules you learned on your first approach still apply. You'll just have to be coming out of a turn instead of being lined up with the runway from the beginning. Remember, you want your altitude at about 5,000 foot AGL and your airspeed around 300 knots when you reach your initial approach point. Alright, your last landing will have a steep approach angle. Remember, you want your altitude at about 2,000 foot AGL and your airspeed around 200 knots when you reach your final approach point. Your angle of attack should be between 12 and 14 degrees when you're ready to touch down. Try to get the vertical and horizontal localizer bars to cross over your flight path marker.
And that's it, 2 missions in one from F-22 Lightning III now on DCS World. Tell us if you want to see more missions like this. I would like to know if you enjoyed this as much as I did. It most definitely brings back memories. Remember to fly safe, and I'll see you next time.
Congratulations, you've managed to complete your first hop without turning your jet into a lawn dart.